Thanks for joining us. I'm Kim Christensen.
And I'm Kyle Clark. Tonight, two vice presidential contenders played nice. A debate where they talked to finding common ground despite their policy differences. Republican Senator J.D. Vance presented a smoother, more moderate-sounding version of the Trump agenda. Democratic Governor Tim Walz leaned into his blue-collar resume to fend off attacks that Kamala Harris is too far to the left. Vance said Harris has had time to make progress on America's challenges while in office, and she's failed.
If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans.
Vance clearly took advantage of CBS News' pledge that they would not fact-check false claims, as Vance falsely claimed that Donald Trump salvaged the Affordable Care Act. Walz, who often appeared unsure and baffled during the debate, pointed out that Trump actually supported Republican efforts to overturn the ACA.
If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. But those of you a little older, gray, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
That likely is the final debate of the presidential race. Kamala Harris is calling for a second debate with Donald Trump. He so far has declined.
Right now, the Israeli military is striking Hezbollah targets in Beirut. The Israel Defense Forces told residents to evacuate several neighborhoods and buildings in the suburbs of the Lebanese capital. It comes hours after Iran, which backs Hezbollah, launched at least 180 missiles into Israel. The IDF says its air defenses intercepted many of them. Some landed. 2 people were hit by shrapnel, suffering minor injuries. The National Security Council says President Biden authorized the military to aid Israel's defense against the attack.
This is totally unacceptable, and the entire world should condemn it.
The assault follows the Israeli attacks on Lebanon, killing Hezbollah's leader, and a ground invasion on the southern part of the country. The White House says Iran has signaled to the U.S. that it does not want a wider war.
October 1st came in with hazy skies around the metro area this morning. Look at that soup with the skyline behind it. Fires in Utah and California pushed the smoke into our state. And while it looked like that early in the day, most of that haze had cleared out by this evening, Kathy, and thankfully that's nasty business.
This is the time of year, Kyle, when we just love the pristine Colorado blue skies. But smoke and haze transferred into Colorado on the west and northwest flow aloft. Maybe something we'll be talking about, unfortunately, again tomorrow, especially in northeastern Colorado. No air quality alerts. A lot of this has not made it to the surface. Temperatures have been nice and comfortable today. Mid-70s today, low 50s this hour. It was a cool start, too. We started at 39, so definitely looking like the season, but not feeling like it, with elevated fire danger and the potential for a record high temperature tomorrow. The moisture is north of us. We can't even really buy a cloud right now, and that will be the theme the next couple of days. The winds are going to pick up out of the west and southwest, so the warmth, the wind, the lack of moisture, prompting National Weather Service to extend the red flag warning into northern Colorado, all the way north up through Wyoming and east into Nebraska. Gusty winds tomorrow, low humidity, tender, dry conditions. We need to be so careful. Overnight low temperatures tonight, not as cold as this morning's low at 39, but another record high. I'm going to talk all about it, give you the timing and impact of this next weather change coming up.
New tonight, 2 Aurora police officers are recovering from a crash. You can see the patrol car they were in flipped on its side in the Hooters parking lot on Parker Road near Yale. Police say that patrol car had its lights and sirens going as an officer drove from one parking lot to another just after 6 tonight. That's when a pickup truck T-boned the patrol car, causing it to roll. It's not clear what led up to that crash. The 2 officers were hospitalized with minor injuries. 2 adults and a child were in that truck. One adult and the child are also hospitalized, again, minor injuries. Several parents are suing Poudre Schools. A federal lawsuit filed today claims the district knew a paraprofessional had been convicted of child abuse and still let him work around kids.
He went on to abuse 11 students with special needs. 9 News reporter Lauren Scafidi is along after talking with some of these parents. Lauren?
The parents tell me the school said their son had a seizure in March of 2023, but things weren't adding up. So they wondered if maybe their kindergartner fell off the playground. Well, 2 months later, A review of security footage from the school bus revealed it was much, much worse. A Fort Collins family will take a small win.
Well, it said that overall he had a happy day.
After their most painful year as parents yet. Daisy and Barclay Montgomery.
2023 was the most consequential year of our lives.
Could tell something was different with their kindergarten son, Ashton.
When it came to getting ready for school, he would hide under our table here, and he would actively run away from the bus. The idea that something could be happening on the bus and I not know it because Ashton cannot tell me is absolute nightmare fuel for me.
The bruises and red marks Ashton came home with weren't from an accident on the playground like they first suspected.
I thanked Tyler Zanella every morning for taking care of my son because I assumed that he was doing the right thing as a person of trust, taking care of my autistic son.
Zanella admitted he physically abused 11 students. In April, he was sentenced to 12 and a half years in prison. The Montgomerys and other parents filed a federal lawsuit Tuesday meant to hold the district accountable.
PSD is putting their head in the sand and acting like nothing is wrong.
The lawsuit claims the Poudre School District knew Zanella had a prior child abuse conviction and still let him work with kids.
That the devastation that they've created in every family that was impacted by Zanella cannot be understated.
Daisy and Barclay want to see this lawsuit end in a big win for more than just their son.
We're here to break the stereotypes of autism and to say, put our flag in the ground and say, we're not taking this anymore.
Zanella was originally charged with 164 counts, but 153 of those were dismissed in his plea deal. Daisy says it's really hard to accept that they'll never know the full extent of how her son feels. I reached out to Poudre Schools this afternoon and did not hear back. Live in the studio, Lauren Scafidi, 9 News.
The family of a 16-year-old who was shot and killed outside East High School is now suing Denver Public Schools. Someone shot Luis Garcia February of last year as he sat in his car outside East. No one's been charged, but the lawsuit claims that Garcia's family knows who killed him. A boy under the age of 18 and his mother are listed as co-defendants. They're not named because of the boy's age. The lawsuit claims that the shooter was in a stolen car. It says the boy's mom should have known her son had guns because of his posts on social media. The majority of the lawsuit's complaint focuses on DPS, claims the high school, the district, and the school board failed to maintain a safe environment and weaken security by removing all school resource officers.
As long as all reasonable steps are taken to protect the student body, then a shooting incident ought not to result in liability. But each case is unique, each case is different. And the significant thing is, what do the 6 jurors think about whether the school district was negligent?
After that shooting and another at East High School where a student shot 2 deans, the school board brought back school resource officers. We reached out to DPS for comment. They said they won't talk about pending litigation.
A Denver sheriff's deputy is accused of domestic violence. Denver police arrested 34-year-old Willie Smalls early this morning at an apartment on East Yale Avenue. According to an arrest affidavit, a woman called 911 saying Smalls wrapped his arm around her neck and choked her for roughly a minute. Smalls now faces a second-degree assault charge. He joined the force last year and works at the downtown detention center. He's now on leave.
Today was a particularly important day for students to be in class, regardless of the day's lesson plans.
Every year, Colorado's public schools take a head count of all of their students. That data is used to determine how much each district will get. 9 News reporter Janelle Finch tells us how this all works.
October Count Day has some flexibility, so it actually takes attendance from 5 days before today and 5 days after. Across these 11 days, districts are putting an extra focus on the number of their students. There's strength and money in numbers.
When a student is enrolled, scheduled, and in attendance on an official count day, the district receives about $11,450 per pupil operating revenue.
Data from the October count day goes to Sheldon Rosenkrantz
Right.
at the Colorado Department of Education.
October count is the official student membership head count for all Colorado public schools.
According to Denver Public Schools, October count day data accounts for 85% of its budget.
So they're being paid right now in the projected budget. And then as we get the actual counts and certify them in December, then in the spring, we'll reconcile that with a mid-year adjustment and adjust it as needed.
But a district is only as profitable as the sum of its students. And statewide declining enrollment means less funds to work with.
A school has their projected enrollment of their numbers that they expect, which could be lower, and they'll have to make adjustments for that. We also have a averaging over several years that you can default to, so that the impact isn't severe in one year. If you lost a bunch of students, that you're allowed to make some changes over a few years so that you're able to absorb the impact of that possible declining enrollment.
Rosenkrantz says there were 1,800 fewer students in the state between the last 2 school years. DPS counted nearly 1,000 fewer students between 2022 and 2023. Though everyday attendance doesn't account for the district's financial future, it does account for a student's future.
We encourage everyone to go to school as much as possible.
The state says there were more than 8,000 newly arrived migrant students between October and February of last year. Because many of them weren't included in the count, they didn't receive the typical state funding. Colorado lawmakers did approve $24 million to help accommodate that influx, but that was one-time funding. It's uncertain what'll happen this school year. In the studio, Janelle Finch, 9 News.